Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you how to adjust your bump stops using hockey pucks. The purpose of doing this is to give your Jeep something soft to hit on when your wheel is flexing without bottoming out on, say, your shock and damaging it. So the best way and most appropriate way to do this is to jack up your Jeep, put it on jack stands, take the two tires off of whichever axle you're checking, disconnect the track bar, disconnect the sway bar, and then that'll allow you to cycle the axle up and down at each tire and see where it's going to hit and what it's going to hit on first, and then you can see how much you need to add for your bump stop. However, like most of my videos, I'm in a hurry. I'm trying to make a ride tomorrow, and this will be kind of the maiden voyage since I've done all the work on this, so I'm not doing it the right way, but you're used to that. One of the main reasons I'm kind of doing it the quick and dirty way is because I don't feel like disconnecting my track bars or sway bar links. I don't feel like taking the springs off. It's just a lot of work, so I'm kind of doing it a little bit harder, but also a lot easier at the same time. When my Jeep is sitting with tires on it, there's only about an inch or two of play in the shock for up travel, but it has plenty of play for down travel. I'm not sure if that's totally right. These shocks were for, I think, like 2.5 to 3.5 inches of lift, so it should be enough. I have 3.5 inch springs on here. So what I did without disconnecting a bunch of stuff is I took the tires off, kind of jacked up one side as far as I could go with everything else connected, and I measured how much of the shock I had left for up travel, and then I measured the gap between this bump stop and the spring perch down here, and then I think I had about 4 inches here, and I had about 2 inches of shock travel. So what I did was added 2 inches of hockey puck, and these are about 1 inch wide each, so I just added 2. So now when this gets up to full flex, it should hit on these before it bottoms out my shock and damages it. Typically you need to do this when you start adding any lift. I don't know the minimum amount you need to do it for, but I'd say anything above 2 inches would probably require it, and probably even 2 inches. You just need to check it after you do it. So because I didn't want to take my springs off, one of the things I did was lower the jack down so it would allow the spring to stretch out, so I had a little bit of room to work in here. And then I went to Lowe's and I bought this DeWalt 90-degree angle kind of drill bit or drill attachment. So the thing with this is it's not meant for regular drill bits. It has kind of that quick connect fitting in there. So I had to buy a couple of the quick connect drill bits. So I picked up 2 sizes of the quick connects. I got one small one for a pilot hole and then a bigger 1/4 inch one. And I did the 1/4 inch one because it's the closest size I could get for a 5/16 tap. And I'm going to drill the hole and then tap the bottom there and put a bolt through the pucks to hold it down. Now this tap I also bought at Lowe's just by itself, the 5/16 by 18 thread tap, and it came with a drill, but it's not one of the quick connects, so I wouldn't be able to get it in there without taking the spring off. So the 1/4 inch drill bit is the next size down that you can use. It's a 1/16 inch smaller than what comes with it, and they don't carry the correct size in the quick connect drill bits like that, so I had to go down 1/16, and I used it on the other side and it worked fine. So there's really not a whole lot of room to work in here, but I'm going to do my best to get a punch in there and at least get a small divot made so it won't walk my drill bit all over the place. It's not the best, but that'll have to do. Again, this is kind of quick and dirty. I'm just kind of eyeballing everything, kind of doing my best to get it in the center. I'm just kind of in a hurry and I want to get this done. So now I'm going to take my small quick connect drill bit and put it on here and drill a pilot hole. Now I'm going to step it up to my 1/4 inch drill bit. I think that came out pretty good for just eyeballing it. So now's the fun part of tapping it. This is a pretty slow process for me because I don't have a handle that'll fit this tap. I do have a set of taps and it has a handle, but it's got a smaller chuck than this will fit into. One trick with that is if you have a small enough size, like a star head socket or a wrench, you can fit it over there, but I just don't have the appropriate size. It's always good to add a little bit of cutting oil on there, and while you're doing it, you want to get a few turns, and when it starts to feel a little tight, you'll back it up a little bit, kind of clean out the thread, and then keep going and repeat the process until you get all the way through. Okay, so when you get up to the fat part of the tap and it's moving freely, that means you've cut it to size. So I'm going to go ahead and back this out. So also at Lowe's, I bought varying lengths of 5/16 bolts. So I'm going to go ahead and thread this in there. I'm using a 2.5 inch because the pucks are 1 inch wide, and I'm using 2 pucks. That gives me roughly a 1/2 inch of thread to get in there. It won't be that much because I'm going to add some washers and stuff on the end of this, but it'll be enough. So the next step is going to be drilling the hole in the pucks for the bolt to go through. Again, I'm not going to go for precision here. I'm going to just eyeball the center of the puck and drill the hole. You're allowed to be as precise as you'd like. I don't think it matters much. It's just a piece of rubber that's going to get hit by other rubber. So I'm going to hold the pucks together with a clamp because I do want the hole to line up between the 2 pucks. Even if it's off center, I want it to be exactly off center through both of them. So I've taken a drill bit that's just a little bit bigger than the bolt I'm going to use, and now I'm going to drill a hole straight through the middle. So now I'm going to take my bolt and make sure it fits through the pucks. It does. Still pretty center on the pucks, so that looks pretty good. So the next thing I'm going to do is drill a bigger than the head of the bolt hole to countersink it. It's not going to be very deep, just deep enough to get the head of the bolt below that so it doesn't tear up the rest of that bump stop. So not exactly made for this. These are meant for wood, but it works just fine. It's not going to be a pretty hole, but it'll open it up enough so I can seat it in there. So to test it, I'm going to put my lock washer on there, my washer, and then stick it through there. And I might add a little bit more. It'll compress some when that lock washer gets crushed down, but I don't know if it'll compress enough, so I'm going to just make it a tiny bit bigger. Yeah. That was my manly scream. Thank you. One other thing I want to note is you want the hole big enough to fit the washer and the head of the bolt in there, but you also want it big enough so you can fit a socket over it to tighten it down and to remove it later. So now I'm just going to assemble it, one puck in at a time, then the bolt. Then once you have the pucks in there with the bolt through, put a little anti-seize on the threads of the bolt. Guys, there's some extended bump stops, and I think that'll work just fine for my application. Again, I'm taking it out on its maiden voyage tomorrow, so that's one of the things I'll check into and make sure it's working correctly. Some companies even sell kits, which they're just pre-drilled and come with the hardware. This is a very practical way to do it. Hockey pucks are really good, robust rubber, and they'll last a long time in this application. So that's really all there is to it, guys. After that, you just want to check your other 3 bump stops and see if you need to adjust them at all. Hope you guys enjoyed this kind of quick and dirty bump stop video. If you want to see any other TJ content, be sure to check out the channel. I have tons of it. And if you're not subscribed, think about subscribing. Thanks.